The prince should be with the princess. Our heroine asked, who was it that decided that? While watching her classmates Igarashi and Nanashima score in volleyball and dap each other up, she stared at them pervertedly, thinking they were so cute, as if she were seeing the prince with another prince. She thanked the Lord for giving her this daily bread. However, she'd soon get knocked back by Nana deflecting the ball, and as he went to check on her, begging her not to die, she was just thankful he showed her something nice. She woke up in the infirmary to Achan, a nickname for Amane. The two clamored about their perverted boy love delusions between Igarashi and Nanashima, debating over which of the two would be dominant in the relationship. Achan argued they were the tough servant and gentle prince type dynamic. Introducing our heroine, Kae Serinuma. She was a second year in high school and a fujoshi, which literally translates to rotten girl, because it's a term designated to female fans of anime, manga, and other media that features boy love or yaoi. She loved seeing hot guys get along more than anything. It was her favorite. Her chest heats up from watching the passionate bonds between two guys. She pairs them. They didn't even need a real connection. Her imagination was more than enough to pair them. Any chance she gets to pair them, she pairs them. This is her way of life. And so, her classmates were no exception. Presenting a picture of Nanashima to Achan, she compared him to Shion from Mirage Saga, a bad boy from her favorite anime. The two would get interrupted by Shinomia, a member of the health committee, just like Kae, asking her to kindly free up the bed if she was feeling better, because the student behind him was feeling sick. Kae happily complied, and walking past him, Shinomiya muttered under his breath that she seemed totally fine. Achan couldn't understand what was with him. For being both a first year and such a pretty boy, he was so harsh. Kae thought that was all the better though. For her, the snootier a pretty boy is, the yummier he is. And Achan suddenly agreed with this. Female viewers, is this true? Mutsumi then approached to ask what happened to Kae's face. He was glad to hear she was alright. As the two girls walked away, Achan brought up how Kae seemed to have a weird connection with hot guys. Entering their class, Igarashi came right up to see if she was alright. He then told Nana to apologize, since it was his fault, and Nana gave a somewhat awkward, sorry. Kae told him no worries, and Nana responded he was uninjured thanks to her being a human cushion. Everyone seemed to laugh, and Kae answered she was glad to be useful. Igarashi pulled Nana's ear to scold him for laughing at Kae's expense, and this got Kae twitching. Achan couldn't believe that was supposed to be Nana's apology, citing the only good thing about him was his looks. However, Kae only fixated on how Igarashi apologized even though Nana was the one who did it. She was losing her mind over seeing them as a couple. Achan wished Kae would let it bother her a little, but it was all good for Kae. All she cared about was their cuteness, and even if she had a connection with hot guys, it was wasted on her. She believed a prince should be with a prince, and her happiness came from peeping on the sidelines. Basically voyeurism, not wanting to bother them at all. At least, that's what she thought, until she said goodbye to Achan walking home from school this day. Watching Mirage Saga at night, she would gush over the pretty animation and post about it all over social media. But seeing Shion bloodied and killed would send her into a screaming panic that woke up her entire family. Achan was worried. Kae had been absent for a week at this point. She couldn't reach her and her tweets stopped as well. Kae's mother knocked at her door, worried because she hadn't eaten all this time. Her older brother Takuro came out of his room, saying Fatty was such a pain, and kicked Kae's door open. He began to pull her sheets over, telling her to bathe and eat, while she struggled and refused. When the sheets came off though, Takuro and their mother were shocked. Her voice was no longer obtuse, but now soft and dainty. And seeing herself in the mirror, she wiped it, wondering what kind of poster this was. She screamed that the mirror was broken, and her mother now confirmed this was in fact her daughter. Everyone stared as she walked into school. Her beauty was gleaming, but she had no idea why they all looked at her. She wondered if her uniform looked strange. Getting teary-eyed, she ran to Achan, saying she was sorry for not keeping in touch since she broke her phone. Everyone shouted, finding out this pretty girl was Kae. They started to pile against her, asking what happened, but Igarashi would pull her back, telling them to stop because they were scaring her. Seeing her beautiful face close though, he wasn't immune. The guys all thought she was so pretty after losing some weight. And now Nana was in a daze. Snapping out of it, he walked up to say she was a real hottie now, but told him not to forget what she used to be. Her eyes got heavy with tears, and she ran away. They all thought it was Nana's fault. when, in reality, seeing him reminded her of Shion. She then bumped into Shinomia, and apologizing, she sparkled in his eyes. He stopped her, seeing her red knees, and decided to drag her to the infirmary. She was puzzled. An aloof guy like Shinomiya being nice to her, not knowing he was flustered all the way. In the infirmary, she got worried, seeing Mutsumi was injured, and he explained he saved a cat stuck in a tree. When he casually mentioned her name, Shinomiya was stunned to find out she was Kai, and he ran out squealing. As she treated Mutsumi, she figured she changed so much that Shinomiya didn't recognize her. Mutsumi supposed she'd gotten a little thinner, but he thought it was easy to tell who she was. He was the only one who recognized her despite this, because to him, her kindness hadn't changed. But the actions of all the boys did. Now Igarashi was asking to see a movie with her next Sunday, but Nana would cut in, saying he wanted time with her. But wait, Shinomiya wanted to speak with her for a minute. Oh, and Mutsumi too? She was at a bit of a loss. Kae shined, trying on Achan's clothes, but Achan objected to the hot pants and suggested a skirt instead. She couldn't believe her best friend was going on a date, but Kae wasn't too sure about that. Thinking back to earlier, the 4 boys were all trying to talk to her one-on-one, but she couldn't hear them all talking at once. Igarashi shot first, asking her to a movie on Sunday, and the other 3 boys followed with that. Achan thought this was an ultimate game, and Kae wailed, wondering why this was happening. Achan then asked how her shirt fit, and for Kae, it was a little tight around the chest, irritating Achan a bit. Achan then told Kae to nab herself a boyfriend, because a scar created by a man could only be healed by another man. This message is not Comfy approved. This made Kae tear up over Shion again, but even with Achan egging her on to get a boyfriend, Kae thought real life was impossible. She could only do 2D. She then asked if Achan's boyfriend knew she was an otaku, but nope, he didn't have a clue, and if he did, it'd be over. Achan told Kae to keep that part of her life under wraps, and Kae agreed. By the theater, passing girls were gushing over the 4 hot boys standing together. Meanwhile, Kae was peeping from the corner doing the same, completely drooling like a disgusting pervert. To her, they were beautiful, perfect. She could watch them like this forever. Spotting her, Igarashi flagged her over, and the 4 boys were taken aback by her beauty. She apologized for being late, but the 4 boys in unison and flusteredness, save for Mutsumi, told her not to worry about it. They entered the theater to see the movie The Twilight of Love. The seat order was determined by rock, paper, scissors. Kae was determined to not have a single fantasy today, but seeing the movie, Nana got so bored he fell asleep on Igarashi's shoulder, making Kae's mind go crazy. She was so busy watching those two, she didn't remember a single thing from the movie. Shinomiya tried making the excuse that the story was absolutely horrible while tearing up. Mutsumi offered him some napkins and, oh no, Kae's imagination was going crazy again. She saw their pairing as a dark horse, a senpai who cleverly handles his stubborn kohai. Wait, she said no fantasies today, and made the excuse to reprieve herself in the restroom. Coming out, she kept chanting, "Away with you, dark thoughts!" And Igarashi caught her, shushing her to keep quiet while he whisked her away. He took her to the photo booths, apologizing because he just wanted her to himself a little, and his smoothness definitely got her red. She didn't understand this feeling of her heart beating so rapidly. As Igarashi tried to pull her in close for their photo, Nana cut in and ruined every shot. As Nana started roughing him up, Kae was the real winner, gushing over the picture of the 2 boys as a national treasure, humanity's pride. Then proceeded to lose it, thinking about how she was just flustered over a guy like some normal girl. She didn't know what was wrong with her. She tried to hold back her thoughts while they got food, while they were karaokeing, but by the end of the night, they could all see she wasn't looking too hot. Then, a shop vendor would shout that only for today, they'd be selling limited edition Mirage Saga merchandise. Her otaku meter hit its limits. She wondered if they were selling that ever so rare product that sold out in under 10 minutes. She needed to buy it, but her meter would sink, remembering she was with her classmates. Then, when the man said only 1 limited item left, her nerdy meter burst open. She had no choice but to buy it. She soon came out with a Shion body pillow, apologizing as she admitted she was an otaku. She kept apologizing, explaining if she let this limited item go, she'd regret it for the rest of her life. The boys couldn't believe it meant so much to her. She then explained she did her best to enjoy the date like a normal person, but now figured she couldn't. She tried so hard not to show her flaws that she didn't enjoy herself. Mutsumi stopped her, didn't quite follow on what the problem was. Wasn't it a good thing to have something she liked? That's how he felt, and he enjoyed seeing her eyes sparkling right now. This gave her relief. The rest of the boys agreed. This was way better than the dead eyes she had earlier. They wanted to go somewhere she wanted to go next time. She told them all, thank you, leaving 3 out of the 4 boys' hearts melted. Nana was surprised to see Igarashi using the keychain they all got from Kaie the other day. Kaie was completely obsessed with the mini doll in her hand, being that it was the first time she had seen one. The mini Shion was so cute, and as thanks, she decided to give all 4 boys one. But they were quite unimpressed. Nana couldn't believe she actually gave them anime character keychains. He couldn't understand people who wanted them. He found it a turnoff, especially since Kaie gave each of them matching characters. But Igarashi found it interesting and wondered if Nana was giving up on her. He'd be happy to have one less rival to deal with. Upon entering the gymnasium, they saw Kaie make a magnificent save while still glowing with so much beauty. Her teammates cheered her on, and Achan knew she was athletic, but not this much. Kaie's body was so light, it felt like she had grown wings. She twirled around while Achan thought she was getting ahead of herself. Thinking about it now, Nana admitted she was really fast at the jumping side-to-side test. He thought it was quite scary. Igarashi, on the other hand, applauded her skills, calling it a brilliant receive. Later, the soccer club asked Kaie for help because one of their members had an injured leg, and their practice match was next weekend. Though she seemed good at sports, Achan didn't think this necessarily meant she was good at soccer. However, Kaie happily accepted the help. Achan advised she shouldn't agree without thinking, but Kaie claimed to know a lot about soccer. She was a huge fan of Captain Tsuba, Inazuma 11, and Giant Killing. Crazy anime football references. Shinomiya and the rest were surprised to hear she watched soccer. She explained she always supported Gazelle from Aliyah in Ina 11. Still, it was her first time playing, so she had to practice. Mutsumi said he would cheer her on, and jealously, Shinomiya quickly decided to add his support too. Beating the competition, Igarashi offered to coach her since he was in the soccer club, while Nana didn't seem interested. When Igarashi suggested he teach Kaie as well, Nana outright said, no way, claiming stuff like that couldn't be taught overnight. But Kaie was determined to train, enthusiastically saying, the ball is my friend, we can get along. This hit Nana's nerve, and he started arguing with her about how much time he spent with the ball. Refusing to have a part in this, he walked away. Kaie didn't get what his deal was, but it only fueled her desire to become good at soccer and win. She was brimming with energy during practice, until they had to run 20 laps as part of the warm-up routine. Kaie was barely keeping up, but the torture didn't end there. Next came 5 sets of 20 sit-ups and reverse sit-ups, then 2 sets of 10 push-ups. Finally, they cooled down with some stretches before the real practice would start. At this point, she couldn't believe the fate she subjected herself to. When practice was done, Igarashi commented that Kaie looked like a newborn fawn. She insisted she was fine, but that was far from the truth. Even though she lost weight and could move more freely, she forgot she was a recluse, so she had no muscles at all. Igarashi suggested calling it a day, but Kaie insisted on continuing, only to fall on her face when her legs gave out. Shinomiya would later bandage her legs, and she warmly thanked him, expecting nothing less from someone on the health committee. He was flush looking at her dazzling smile, but as Mutsumi brought refreshments, he slammed the first aid box in anger. With 3 days left, Kaie continued her training. The other soccer club girls didn't see any hope in her anymore, calling her a total washout. Overhearing them, Nana slammed the lockers angrily, telling them to drop the attitude because they were the ones who asked Kaie for help in the first place. He would then come across Kaie practicing her shots. It looked fantastic, until the ball curved right into her face. He couldn't believe her eyes and called her out for goofing off. But she didn't understand why the ball always came back whenever she kicked it. Realizing this was why the others called her no good, he advised her to quit. Besides, a beginner's miracle wouldn't cut it for the game. Kaie refused, while accepting that he was right, and that she was naive. Seeing her resolve made Nana's heart pound heavily. Feeling he had no choice left, he decided to help her practice. The other boys would come across them, and Mutsumi felt it was a beautiful thing for people to get along. During timeout, their team was down by 1 point, with only 2 points remaining. Kaie came up with an idea, asking for the ball to be passed to her at the next throw-in. Her teammates felt there was no hope, but they were overwhelmed by her extreme persuasiveness. When they passed the ball to her, she shot in the opposite direction, causing the boys to lose their minds. But given her unique technique, the ball curved into the enemy's goalpost, making everyone happy and confused at the same time. Nana burst into laughter. He couldn't believe how unreal this was. She was hilarious. With that, he wasn't about to back down anymore. which meant Igarashi still had to deal with 3 other rivals. Kai then walked into class, looking completely worn out because of her strained muscles. But she lit up at the thought of summer break coming soon and fantasized about comiket, performances, and concert talk shows. They were worth saving for. She was set to have fun until the teacher reminded her that if she failed the next test, she would have to take supplementary classes for 2 weeks during the summer. Instantly, she was crushed. Amane and the boys felt sorry for her. Kai was memorizing English and translating Japanese classics at the same time. She was going crazy, but if she had to take 2 weeks, it would get in the way of the Mirage Saga events, which happened during the day. She cried bitterly because she couldn't imagine not being able to say goodbye to Shion. Mutsumi would approach her, and after hearing her struggles, he offered to help her study. Of course, the other boys swiftly cut in, asking him to teach them as well, but not for knowledge. They definitely weren't about to leave him alone with her. At the library, Kai was thrilled at how Mutsumi made math so easy to understand. She could always count on him. Nana began asking Shinomiya if he could understand what they were studying, since he was a first year, trying to get him to leave. But Shinomiya wasn't about to fall for that, stating he did second-year work in prep school. He shot back, pointing out Nana had answered question 2 wrongly, and Igarashi confirmed. Their argument got so loud, everyone else threw them out of the library. Even the waitress at a cafe angrily told them to refrain from overstaying their welcome while studying or yelling in their establishment, basically telling them to go home. With nowhere else to go, Igarashi suggested they study at Kai's place. She didn't mind. After all, she had asked for their help, but the issue was her room was a sea of rot. She decided to leave the Shion body pillow, but the other boy love magazines were quickly thrown into the closet. Shortly after, the boys gathered in her room. Kai's mom came in to bring tea, but her weird makeup caused Kai to spring up and confront her outside. Her mom wanted to pretty herself up, seeing the guests were handsome boys, and Kai then called her out for trying too hard. Meanwhile, Nana questioned why the other guys were here. He fantasized about being alone with Kai, getting close enough to plant a kiss. At least, that's how he pictured a room date. Shinomiya called him an idiot, because he'd flop at the part where he was supposed to teach her. Igarashi felt being in a girl's room was exciting. They would get to look at things like old yearbooks. But when Nana pulled over the blanket, revealing the Shion bedsheet, he was completely terrified. He didn't even know these kinds of things existed. Nana then bent to get Shinomiya's pen, which had fallen under, but let out a horrified scream seeing more Shion merchandise staring at him. Kai explained she got the stand from the store, and usually put it on display next to an altar dedicated to Shion's passing. The guys were surprised when Mutsumi showed concern, asking if Shion was dead. As she confirmed, he decided to pay his respects, and asked the others to join him. But they didn't seem to think these were the actions of a sane person. Takuro soon returned home, stunned to hear his sister was with 4 boys in her room. He suddenly burst into the room yelling, "Don't be fooled." As her brother, he decided to warn the guys not to be deceived by Kai's looks, letting them know he was a crazy otaku. However, they all knew about this already. Kai would then reprimand her brother, yelling that not everyone was as narrow-minded as him. These words struck Takuro deep, so he retaliated by opening her closet, revealing all her boy-love books. The boys were stunned to see all the BL books. Furious, Mutsumi calmly told Takuro to leave since they were studying, and pushed him out. He then asked the others to help clean up the mess, but Kai insisted on doing it herself. With his charm, he told her not to be rough, since the books were important to her. Kai then saw them off when studies were over. Mutsumi told her to offer his apologies to her brother, but she replied he had it coming. Then, he gave her a pencil for the test, saying it would help her decide if she was at a loss. Luck was a skill too. Her cute expression thanking him made the others blush. Mutsumi then handed them each a pencil, wishing them all good luck on the test. Seeing she passed, Kai was excited to begin summer break. Nana quickly asked her out to the pool, and as you'd expect, Igarashi and Shinomiya came asking as well. But Kai ended up setting all the otaku events as her top priority. In preparation for their upcoming cultural festival, one of the boys in class suggested all the girls dress up as maids. Kai agreed with this, drooling like a freak as she proposed everyone in the class dress up too. After much debate, the class decided on a cosplay cafe as a compromise, and she was so pumped. However, Nana wasn't the least bit excited about the cosplay. Then, Kai, brimming with enthusiasm, had the perfect idea. She decided to design all their costumes. Mutsumi reminded her that the history club also had an exhibit, but Kai promised she would handle everything. Shinomiya's class was going to perform a play, and feeling embarrassed, he revealed he was going to play the princess. The other guys laughed at him, but Kai completely lost her mind thinking about a pretty boy dressed as a girl. She believed he could perform as the best princess ever. She desperately begged him to allow her to be in charge of his production, swearing to make him shine. Shinomiya tried to be considerate, not wanting to put too much on her plate, but she was insistent on handling everything. Nanashima, Igarashi, and Shinomiya. She couldn't believe she was in charge of making costumes for them. This was the chance of a lifetime. Afterwards, she started taking Igarashi's measurements. Just when he tried to make a move, Kai was called to meet with Shinomiya, who was surrounded by girls marveling at his cuteness. He wondered how they knew about him playing a princess in the play. Then, Kai revealed she kind of let it slip. She couldn't help but feel he was going to be the cutest princess ever. Hearing this, he would swoop her in by the waist, letting her know he was still a man. But that was only in his imagination. Kai noted while he was quite delicate, he really was still manly. As she complimented his features, he grabbed her shoulders, his face close to hers. But before he could say anything, Nana showed up strangling him with the tape. The two quickly got into an argument. Then, Nana tried having his measurements taken next, but Shinomiya let him know she wasn't done with his, and they continued arguing. Later, Achan would see Kai overwhelmed by the costume she had to make. Igarashi then came in to help, and you guessed it, Nana and Shinomiya also popped out, offering to help too. Mutsumi came in last, telling Kai to come help out at the history club after. With so many things to do, she was distraught. Nana decided to drag the guys to help out at the history club, because sewing didn't really fit them. While there, Igarashi wondered what he was even doing. This was all for Kaie, but she wasn't even here. He then asked Nana if this was fun for him, and Nana answered that it wasn't so bad and felt really festive. And so, preparations moved along steadily, with a lot of commotion as well. But in the end, Kaie finished with all the costumes. Soon after, the three boys came dazzling in their outfits. All the girls lost their minds over them and started taking pictures. Kai then went up to Nana, but in her eyes, she only saw Shion. Whatever way she looked at him, he was Shion. Shion in 3D. She also squealed at the sight of Shinomiya. He was incredibly cute, just as she expected. No one would even think he was a boy. But Shinomiya didn't exactly know how to feel about that. Nana teased him, saying Kai didn't even see him as a man, but Shinomiya shot back at Nana, saying that she didn't even see him as a real person. Kai was moved to tears, delighted that they were wearing the costumes she made, and as she thanked them, they blushed. After school, she suggested they all go around the festival if they had the time, and while the others agreed, Igarashi said to count him out. He wasn't interested in playing buddy-buddy with everyone anymore. He confessed his feelings to Kai directly, and said he wanted to see the festival with her alone. But Nana and Shinomiya would quickly object. They also refused to play buddy-buddy with anyone, and now the three were in full rivalry mode. Kai wondered what this deja vu feeling was, and why things had to be like this. She just wanted to enjoy the festival. As Mutsumi told everyone to calm down, Kai's eyes lit up, seeing him as her savior. But those feelings crashed when he suggested a schedule for everyone to get equal alone time with her. They all agreed to go with this, and Kai didn't even get a say in the matter. On the festival day, her adorable maid outfit had all the guys blushing. Achan teased about her having 4 dates lined up with 4 hotties, but Kai was nervous, not knowing how to handle being alone with a guy. Achan assured her it would be fine and advised her to just have fun like always. Shortly, Nana came to have his time with Kai. He thought about changing, but she begged him to stay dressed as Shion. So, they were then given flyers to advertise the cafe. As they walked through the hallways, all eyes were on them. Soon, they were surrounded by students asking to get pictures. Igarashi and the other 2 guys were relieved to see they weren't technically getting any alone time. Then, Nana quickly dragged Kai into a club room, where they took pictures together. She was so happy to get a picture with Shion. With her back against the wall, Nana leaned in with a classic kabe-dan, letting her know he was still a real, live man. Just as he got closer to her face, Mutsumi interrupted, reminding Nana that his time was up. Shinomiya would hold Nana back, while Mutsumi went off to have his time with Kai. They went outside to have some yakisoba, but Nana and Igarashi were right there. So much for alone time. As Kai enjoyed her meal, she felt Mutsumi was really comforting. He offered her some takoyaki and fed her. Upon eating, she felt like the maid master roles were mixed up. Not only that, but seeing that she used Mutsumi's chopsticks made her completely flustered. And in that heated moment, Igarashi would interrupt, signaling it was time. He took her to the theater club, and she was glad to be with him while they watched Shinomiya's play. Shinomiya appeared on stage, and Kaie was drooling at how adorable he looked. Igarashi placed his hand on hers, making her flustered, but she didn't hate it either. So, he interlocked his fingers with hers and placed them on his lap, making her mind more disoriented. When the play was over, Kaie's memory totally blacked out. Afterwards, they met with Shinomiya. Igarashi signaled Kaie to keep their little hand-holding a secret. Shinomiya then took her to a haunted house, determined to show his manly side, but the others doubted he'd be able to pull anything. The slight jump scares had Shinomiya screaming for his life. Kaie figured he wasn't good with scary things and found it quite cute. She grabbed his hand so they could quickly get to the exit. Recalling Nana's words, Shinomiya snatched his hand back, telling Kaie he was a man too. But the next jump scare had him jump onto Kaie, and he found his face buried in her chest. She was so embarrassed, she ran out of there screaming. When Shinomiya came out, he was gushing over what just happened and told the others it was an accident. Kaie ran to Ah-chan, letting her know she was fed up. This was impossible. Ah-chan laughed after hearing what happened, saying this was just like an ultimate game. Kaie cried that this was too much for her to handle. She believed the best place for her was by the sidelines, where she gushed over the princes. But here she was, thrust into the center of some ultimate game-like story. Seeing how down she was, Ah-chan decided to go buy her a drink to cheer her up. Suddenly, Kaie got a text from Igarashi, asking if she was alright, but it was too hard for her to go back to them. Just then, some guys approached her, trying to forcefully make a move after they saw a poster of her. Kaie punched one of them and started running away, but they chased after her and caught up. As she struggled to break free, Igarashi swooped in, knocking one of them out, and Nana and the others also showed up. A fight broke out. Kaie was horrified, wondering how things came to this. Furious, she yelled for them to knock it off. She was fed up, crying about how real life was a crappy game. While she cried to the four boys, she apologized and explained that everything was too much for her. Of course, 3 of them were furious, while Mutsumi was oblivious. Kaie just didn't have enough immunity for these real-life events. Tears kept pouring as she had hit her limit. Igarashi then knelt and humbly apologized, proposing they take things slower. The others didn't have any objection to this, and Kaie thanked them all. She later apologized to Ah-chan for suddenly running away. Soon after, the festival's finale, a folk dance, was announced, and everyone was free to pick a partner. Like a reflex, the 4 boys came to ask Kaie, but Igarashi decided they should probably stop. So, he dragged Nana to dance. Mutsumi then went off with Shinomiya, who wasn't excited about this at all. Seeing the boys dance, Kaie and Ah-chan were pervertedly drooling over them, and Kaie accepted this was her way of life. With Christmas on the horizon, Nana suggested they have a Christmas party with some karaoke. He proposed having it on Christmas Eve, which everyone was fine with, except Kaie. She had plans of going to Comiket that day, and they were stunned. Nana pushed, saying it was the day everyone looked forward to the most, and he wondered what Comiket even was. Looking it up, Shinomiya explained it was the country's largest doujinshi exhibition sale. Nana still tried to persuade her, but Kaie insisted her year wouldn't be complete until she attended the convention. Mutsumi found it interesting that there was a history group there as well, and Kaie said it was super fun. These days, there was more than just manga and anime. It was spread to other genres with things like songwriting and foreign dramas, and she wanted to see them all. Mutsumi proposed they all go. This way, they'd close out the year and have a party all at once. The friends Kaie usually went with had other plans, so she'd be overjoyed to have them there with her. Thinking about how happy she'd be, they all agreed to go to Comiket. On the early morning of Christmas Eve, Kaie was buzzing with energy, while the others could barely keep their eyes open. She explained if they didn't go early, all the books would be gone. Then, she handed out guides for Comiket to all of them, which would help them with proper etiquette and history. With that settled, they moved onward to the Holy Land. When they arrived, Nana couldn't believe how massive the crowd was. The train was also packed, and the same with the platform when they arrived. However, Kaie said that it looked like there were fewer people than last year, which made it even more ridiculous. Afterwards, they got in line to wait until the doors were open, but they still had 2 hours and 30 minutes to wait, and it was freezing cold. Kaie then handed them a pack of gloves to help keep them warm. With this, they thought 2.5 hours would be a cinch, but little did they know, after the doors opened, there'd be another hour before they could enter. They were totally exhausted when they finally got in. As agreed, they were to split into 3 groups to complete the shopping list, and Kaie had given them an incredibly thorough map. She was worried about if they actually wanted to help her shop, but Igarashi pointed out they wanted nothing for themselves. So, splitting up would be faster to get the items. She was really grateful for their help, even though she was acting selfish, and she also felt sorry for what they had to get. Igarashi and Nana had to buy some BL comics, and the girls selling thought they were a gay couple. Unbothered, Igarashi just asked for the latest issue, leaving Nana shocked at how composed he was. With this, they swiftly got all the BL comics they needed. Meanwhile, Kai was drooling shamelessly as she yelled to be given all the issues. Elsewhere, Mutsumi's charm was too much for the girls he bought comics from. They thought he was an angel, and his radiance was too blinding. Shinomiya then dragged him out, so they could get things over with. Mutsumi told him there was still time before they would all meet up, but Shinomiya just wanted out of here quickly. This wasn't the least bit fun for him. There were too many people, the books were heavy, it was too cold outside, but too hot inside. Most of all, Mutsumi was easily dragged off, making Shinomiya feel like he could lose him at any second. Mutsumi then decided to hold on Shinomiya's shirt like a little kid, and said he wanted to see the history group once they were done. Shinomiya then reluctantly agreed. Kai arrived at the meetup point with a haul of comics. With just a few minutes left, she wondered what would be the best way to thank them. Just then, she noticed a photographer taking shots of her. She screamed, terrified, trying to explain she wasn't a cosplayer. But the guy only kept crawling closer like a creep. That's when Nishina would cover the man with a scarf to block his shots, saying this wasn't very gentlemanlike of him. Nishina pointed out his unacceptable actions, showing how the other photographers were upset with him. They demanded he kneel and apologize, but Kai quickly let him off, provided he would never try this again. Nishina then told her to be careful of guys who creep up from time to time. Kai was mesmerized by Nishina's Sebastian cosplay from Grey Butler. She said it was perfect. Moments later, Igarashi and the rest arrived, apologizing for not meeting up sooner due to their bad phone reception. Nishina then advised them to keep a better eye on Kai. Nishina then kissed Kai's hand and bid them adieu as he left. Kai then explained to the boys that Nishina simply helped her when she got tangled with the creep. She felt guilty that they were going along with her selfish whims and apologized. With their shopping done, they were ready to get started with the party, but little did they know, the traffic on the way back was an even worse hell than when they came. So, by the time they arrived for their closing celebration and Christmas party, all of the boys had no energy left. At school, Kai told Ah-chan about Kamiket and the super cool Sebastian cosplayer she met. Sadly, she had no pictures. Suddenly, Nishina showed up behind her, and Kai was freaked out to see she was a student here. She was even more stunned to see that Nishina was a girl and not a boy. Kai then introduced her to the four boys, letting them know Nishina was a first year like Shinomiya. After talking to her, Kai found out they got along pretty well, and Nana was happy to see that the kiss back then meant nothing. But Nishina seemed quite popular with the girls from different years. Seeing they all wanted to hang out with her, Nana and Shinomiya got a sudden sense of defeat. Nishina had heard rumors about Kai, but meeting her at Kamiket was mere coincidence. A coincidence that was too good to be true. She drew Kai close, saying it was fate. Wanting to value their bond, she invited Kai to her home, where they would talk the night away about Mirage Saga. Kai, filled with fantasies, couldn't resist and quickly accepted. But Nana would interject, adding they would all go to see Mirage Saga as well. The other boys agreed to tag along, obviously to keep tabs on this new rival. Nishina was happy to have all of them, but she had a little request. When they got to her lavish mansion and saw the maid attending to Nishina, they were stunned. Nana and Shinomiya looked defeated again and felt like Nishina really popped out of some 2D universe. They headed into Nishina's figurine collection room, which was basically paradise for Kaie. She drooled lewdly at all the Shion figures, seeing each one of them as an angel. Nishina then showed the one she bought at last year's Wonder Festival. Kaie could tell it was made by the super famous sculptor and was a completely made-to-order garage kit model. Nishina also painted that one. Not only that, but she had also made the models of some castles that Mutsumi was looking at. He was also charmed by Nishina's skills. Nana and Shinomiya, however, were determined not to fall for her spells. Next up was Nishina's costume room, where she made all the clothes there. She then complimented the outfit Kai had made for Shinomiya, saying he looked cute, but Shinomiya snapped, telling her not to call him that or make fun of him. But Nishina would never do that. She insisted he was very beautiful, and the outfit was marvelous. Hearing that, he thanked her, slowly falling for her words, and leaving Nana furious. But Igarashi admitted Nishina was quite a smooth talker. Afterwards, Nishina took them to her library of comics. Kai was smitten, her eyes sparkling like she was in heaven. It had everything from comics, novels, limited books, and doujinshi. These shelves were like the perfect BL collection. Kai was about to explode with excitement. She also noticed a book from an author they lined up for the other day, only for Nishina to reveal she was the author. At this point, there wasn't anything she couldn't do. She would draw an image of Shion and sign it, proving it was her, and the guys admitted she was really good. Kai wondered if she was like some kind of god. She stuttered to Nishina, asking to shake her hand. Igarashi tried to calm her, but when Nishina offered to draw for her anytime, Kai fell deep, leaning on Nishina and asking to be held. Nana tried to prove he was just as good at drawing, but his art was a total failure. Nishina was rich, beautiful, smooth-talking, and able to do anything. A walking life hack. He couldn't beat her in any way. But Kai picked up his drawing and could tell it was Shion. It made her so happy, and she said it was super cute. A great Shion. Nana was flustered and happy to see she liked it. However, his spotlight was quickly cut by Shinomiya and Mutsumi, who also decided to showcase their own drawings. Kai squealed over how cute they were, and Nana was shattered, realizing she'd like anything as long as it was Shion. Reminding them of her request, Nishina took them to the living room and explained she wanted to use them as models. Kai called her to the side, and they both had the same depraved idea to use the hot boys as models. Shortly after, they paired the guys up and started having them pose very intimately. Shinomiya couldn't handle it, but Kai felt like she was in heaven. When Nana was to lay on Igarashi's lap, he immediately refused. But being the most enthusiastic about this, Kai quickly grabbed Nishina to show them how it's done. When she brought Nishina's face close to hers, she was completely flustered. But Nishina found her cute and drew her in, stealing Kai's first kiss. Kai froze in shock, wondering what just happened. However, Nishina stated this wasn't a joke, letting the guys know they would lose if they didn't take her seriously. While gushing over the new Mirage Saga work, Kai suddenly recalled a kiss with Nishina while looking at Terra and Shion. She squealed, trying to flush the memory out because there was nothing she could do with it. Back then, Nishina apologized and claimed she was just teasing, so Kai decided it didn't count. But she couldn't stop thinking about it. Then, she came across a Valentine project, where one had to send chocolates to a Mirage Saga character. Apparently, whoever won would get an illustration by the character designer with their signature. It was one of a kind, and Kai wanted it badly. Nishina came over to her class, but Nana quickly blocked her, refusing to let her within a 2-meter radius of Kai. Kai would push him out of the way and talk about the Valentine project with Nishina. Nishina then asked that they test out their recipes together, but as Nana quickly protested, she decided he and the other guys could come as well. She joked that watching her and Kai make chocolates they'd never get to try would be fun. She really got on Nana and Igarashi's nerves. Over at Nishina's place, Kai brought out a picture of Shion she would use for the chocolate. Nishina noticed it was one of her illustrations, but she didn't mind, so long as it made Kai happy. Afterwards, Kai started the process, and all the guys were impressed with the result. But she ripped it in a wild rage, claiming it didn't showcase Shion's beauty. Seeing her like this made Nana totally terrified. Nishina then suggested they make 3D models instead, and presented one. Kai immediately loved it, expecting nothing less. She stared dreamily, asking to be taught how to make one, and of course, Nishina gladly accepted. Meanwhile, 3 of the boys were trying hard at their own artwork. On the other hand, Kai's own looked like an undead. She wasn't improving at all. If this kept up, she might not make it by the deadline. Nishina held her hands, comforting her warmly. A little too close for comfort. Nana then dragged Nishina away, because he couldn't trust her anywhere near Kai. Nishina claimed there was nothing to worry about. She explained that she simply liked cute things, which is why she was attracted to Kai. Igarashi assumed she was just into Kai's looks, but Nishina said it wasn't quite that, and claimed Igarashi was the one who felt that way. You know, given how things have transpired thus far, I think Nishina has a point. Kai then began making the perfect chocolate 3D sculpture. It took over 73 hours, and the guys were definitely not impressed with the result, calling it very avant-garde. Kai began crying, so they tried to reassure her it was good, but Shinomiya delivered the backhanded compliment of calling it eccentric. Nishina offered her perfect model, telling Kai to use it instead. Though Kai refused, Nana pointed out there was no time left, and she didn't have much of a choice. The other guys agreed. While staring at the 2 sculptures, Kai took a piece of chocolate, and its delicious taste made her realize something. She ended up sending the one she made. because despite the fact it was strange looking, Kaie had poured her feelings into it. She then apologized to Nishina, but Nishina didn't have a problem because to her, this was what made Kaie wonderful. Kaie then gave them all some chocolate as a token of thanks for always getting along with her. Igarashi couldn't help but think of how cute she was. Recalling Nishina's words, he admitted it was all about Kaie's looks before, but now, he didn't want to give her up. At the time, he had no idea the day would come when his feelings would be put to the test. He was left speechless, seeing Kaie back to her chubby self. Even Achan and their classmates couldn't believe who they were seeing. Kaie explained she had eaten all the leftover Valentine's chocolate, hence gaining back all the calories in a single night. While Nana trembled in fear, Igarashi was worried about her sudden weight fluctuations. Nana would suddenly pass out, foaming at the mouth. On her way to get a teacher, Kaie slammed into Shinomia, sending him crashing into a wall before he passed out. He was traumatized, believing this was all a dream, and if he woke up again, Kaie would be back to normal. Nana was now determined to find a way to make her lose weight. He'd rather have a beauty with a good personality than a beast with a good personality. Though this honestly disgusted Shinomiya, he couldn't help but agree. Meanwhile, Nishina was stuffing Kaie with more snacks in class. Seeing her so round and soft, she just wanted to feed Kaie lots and lots. When she started playing with Kaie's cheeks, it hurt Nana so much she started crying. Kaie then revealed her chocolate sculpture won the special prize. She couldn't believe it. She had been invited to the award ceremony where she'd get to meet all the staff she admired. Suddenly, Nana decided he would help her meet these people, convincing her she had to look her very best. He blurted out that she had to lose some weight first. On the track field, he made Kaie run laps, and Shinomiya was all in on the plan. Just as she felt like she was about to die, Nishina gave her some water to take a break. But Kaie wanted to keep going. Back in class, she looked so depressed and her figure had barely changed. While Nana thought of more routines, Igarashi told him not to push Kaie so hard. Just then, he got a text from Shinomiya. When they met up, Shinomiya proposed an otage, or idle fan dance moves for Kaie's workout. He proceeded to showcase his moves, but everyone else looked grossed out by it, and they couldn't even look him in the eyes. Kaie asked him to teach her anyway, and Nishina suggested they all do it as a group. After all, this would be the best way to support her. Nana and Igarashi started dancing immediately, and Kaie happily joined in. Mutsumi suggested they take a break, but Kaie would keep going at it, until she finally broke her back. Seeing how much pain she was in, Nishina suggested they stop the whole weight loss program. She blamed Nana for pushing her too far, which was why she got hurt. But Mutsumi quickly stopped the squabble, pointing out that Nishina was also to blame. He added that only Kaie would decide if she wanted to keep going or stop. The next day, she was feeling much better. Nishina had also escorted her to school, although Nana wasn't so happy about that. She would continue following Kaie around, offering to help even for the smallest things. Kaie eventually became paranoid that Nishina could pop out from anywhere. Suddenly, Igarashi dragged her to the rooftop to clear her head. Kaie blamed herself for causing everyone so much trouble, so she slapped her cheeks, trying to pump herself up again. After all, she was the one who decided to do her best for Mirage Saga. She had to see it through. Watching her, Igarashi thought Kaie had always been so bright and positive, never giving up, and this only made him see her even more beautifully. Back in class, he confessed to Nana that he had fallen in love with Kaie all over again. Even now, to him, looks were a trivial thing, but Nana let him know there was nothing trivial about this case. Still, Igarashi thought Kaie was wonderful, and Nana ran away in tears. Kaie would return to the gym, ready to start working out again. Nishina was against it if she'd hurt herself again, but Kaie assured she'd be more careful. Nana and Shinomiya then showed up, claiming they had a new idea. While they held hands, Nana pointed to Kaie, who was about to lose her mind. She couldn't resist anything slightly related to BL. So, their plan was to reward her by fulfilling her fantasies if she could meet the quota. Instantly, Kaie started doing sit-ups to get them to hug, but Igarashi told her to take it easy in order to avoid hurting herself again. Nishina noted he was quite kind to her, and Igarashi told her he realized he was more attracted to Kaie's honesty and cheerfulness. Now, with confidence, he could say, "I like Kaie." That's why he wanted to be kind and do whatever he could for her. Eventually, Kaie returned to the slim figure they all liked, but aside from Mutsumi, the rest of the boys looked like the life was drained out of them. As she thanked them, Nana and Shinomiya were haunted by all the things they had to do with each other. Nishina added another twist. She wanted them to kiss, just to give Kaie more incentive. Kaie had starry eyes, waiting for her dream to come true. Mutsumi then grabbed Nana, while Kaie's heart raced as she watched. The next day, Shinomiya greeted Kaie at the school entrance, but she didn't respond, looking a bit dazed. She also didn't respond when greeted by Nana and Igarashi. It wasn't until Mutsumi got so close to her face, checking her temperature, that's when she reacted. Kai then revealed she had found someone special to her, and upon hearing this, they all panicked and asked who it was. It turned out to be Akane from Kachuranbu, another anime she started watching. The first second she saw him, she was like, "Be my waifu!" Kai had barely slept since watching the anime, and Nishina also had Akane as her wallpaper. However, the guys didn't seem to follow, so Kai started rambling with a lewd expression, explaining that Akane was the main character's retainer. Nishina soon joined in, drooling as well, as they both rambled hysterically. Shinomia then asked about Shion, to which Kai responded that he was still in her Hall of Fame, but there was always room for more. When Nana asked what the anime was all about, the girls turned their gaze towards him and showed him a trailer. The anime was set during the Sengoku period and showcased the main character who was warned about an attack from the northern mountains. As the MC was about to set out, Akane warned him of archers. Akane eventually jumped in to defend his lord, transforming into an armor set and embracing his body. The girls squealed after the trailer played, calling it godly, but the boys didn't seem all that impressed. In fact, Nana found it weird that Akane transforms into the armor and helmet. Kai and Nishina continued swooning over the Lord-Retainer bond. However, they seemed to have shipped the characters differently, and the air became tense. While Nishina rooted for it to be Akane leading the relationship, Kai felt otherwise. While they continued arguing, the boys could only nervously watch. It got so heated that the girls began ignoring each other. When Achan asked Kai what was wrong, Kai gave her a threatening look. Igarashi explained what had happened, and Achan began trembling, fearing Kai and Nishina's friendship might be over. She called it a reverse shipping war, a scenario argument where people disputed which character was pitcher and which character was catcher. Since the boys were unable to understand, Achan painted a hypothetical situation where Igarashi and Nana would be dating. She showed how the dynamics of the relationship changed depending on who asked the other out. This kind of thing usually sparks battle, especially in the world of fujoshis. The passion was nearly synonymous with what you'd feel avenging your parents' death. With Kai and Nishina still going at it, the boys decided to do something. Mutsumi called Kai, inviting her to Anime Ito to see Kachuranbu. At the same time, Igarashi tricked Nishina into coming as well. When they all met up, the girls realized what happened, but it was too late. The boys dragged them off to a cafe, where they tried talking about Kachuranbu. The waitresses assumed they were otakus from the conversations. Things were going well, until Shinomiya ruined it by claiming the princess would end up with the lord. The girls coldly reminded him that the lord had Akane. Nana tried getting things back on track, but Shinomiya would ruin it again by talking about the relationship between Akane and the Lord. The feud only grew bigger, so Nishina proposed they write a fanfiction based on Kachuranbu to the same site, and they'd have to accept the one with more hits as the true pairing. The format would be a short story, and they had a week to complete it. On their way out, Igarashi stopped Nishina, asking if she was serious about this, and she answered she would show Kai what side justice was on. But Igarashi questioned what she would do afterwards, since they might never be friends again. Either way, it was more convenient for him with one less rival. From childhood, Nishina liked things that were beautiful. She loved looking at them, drawing them, but because her family was of high status, people thought she was from a different world. Even when she won awards, they claimed it was because of her family's donations to the school. Nishina ran away, thinking none of them were beautiful. But most of all, the way she was losing wasn't beautiful either. She had paved her own way to her place in this world, and because of this, she couldn't lose this fight. Meanwhile, Kai looked lifeless because she was barely getting enough sleep. She asked for Mutsumi's opinion on her story. Though he found it interesting, he gave her tips on areas to touch up on, things an elementary school kid would learn about writing. But this only drained her more. Shinomiya then confronted Nishina, explaining that Kai was having a tough time. He asked her to quit and called the whole thing a waste of time. Nishina quickly pinned him to the wall by his crotch, pointing out that this was a battle between souls, so she would never back down. She then called him a little kitten, telling him to shut up if he didn't understand. And so, the writing from their souls continued, right up until the deadline. When they were done, they published their works, and the real battle began, with all the boys watching eagerly, awaiting the outcome. The decisive moment came. On the rooftop of the school, Kai and Nishina revealed their hits, and Nishina was the winner. She mocked Kai, telling her to admit defeat, and with tears in her eyes, Kai admitted, but said she would never give up her pairing as she ran out. Igarashi then asked Nishina if she was satisfied. He reminded her of the time she said she liked beautiful things, and asked, "Is making the girl you like cry beautiful. On her way out of school, Nishina recalled this was the first place she met Kai. Back then, she pulled up in a limousine, determined to make a place for herself in this world. But when Nishina heard everyone calling her a rich girl, she panicked, believing this place was no different. That's when Kai would trip on a pebble and crash into her fellow students. Nishina, however, thought it was a beautiful flying body attack. When she made her first doujinshi, Kai was the first to buy an entire collection. Later, Nishina got an email from her, praising the comics for how it made her soul tremble. And so, Nishina began to look for Kai in school. But she had lost weight by then and wasn't recognizable. Her circle started getting bigger and bigger, and they were finally reunited during Comiket unknowingly. It wasn't until she saw someone point out Kai in a photo that Nishina realized who she was. She felt it had to be fate. Kai was always beautiful to her. So Nishina didn't want to lose her over something like this. There was nothing more precious to her than Kai. However, Kai refused to pick up her calls. So Igarashi had to secretly send Nishina their location. Just as Nishina got there, Kai said how much she loved her stories and how they made her soul tremble. Hearing this, Nishina was moved. She felt the same way and loved Kai. Seeing each other, they embraced and apologized. Then, they both agreed Akane and his lord were versatile, which meant either fitted well as a pitcher or catcher. Feeling sad, Kai announced this Saturday was the anniversary of the Lord's death. The Lord being Hyaki Sametora, the samurai that Kachuranbu's lord was modeled after. She wanted to go for the Requiem Mass, but the night bus was all booked already. Nishina offered to use her helicopter, but Kai refused, claiming it would be rude to Sametora's soul if she didn't go by her own means. With a burning resolve, she declared a pilgrimage. Moved by her determination, Nishina decided to slum it with Kai like a peasant, so they could go together. Nana could tell that this was a subtle insult. While they made their plans, Igarashi questioned if they'd be sleeping together. Nishina teased about having no other choice. After all, the guys weren't interested. However, Mutsumi asked to tag along with a blinding, innocent radiance, while the other three guys had more of a sinister aura as they asked. Kai happily agreed, crushing any plans Nishina had. When they got to the hotel, the girls at Mutsumi were excited, while the others were unimpressed. Even when the owner attended to them, their expressions remained the same. In the bathhouse, the boys started talking about Shinomiya's chest, which got the girls to take interest. Afterwards, they started playing cards, but when Nana was given a draw-off, he threw a pillow at Igarashi, and a pillow fight broke out. While everyone else was fighting, Mutsumi and Kai were calmly tossing pillows to one another. Amidst the chaos, Igarashi slipped out and found himself on top of Kai. They both locked eyes momentarily, before a pillow knocked him off, and he got battered by the rest. Shortly after, the old lady barged in, threatening to call the cops if they didn't pipe down. Seeing a lot of young women at the mass, a woman wondered if they made a drama about Sametora. Then, Kai, Nishina, and all the other girls paid their respects to him. After the ceremony, they wanted to buy some good luck charms. On the plaques, Kai and Nishina wrote how they wanted Akane and his lord to be together, but it only freaked the guys out, and Igarashi speculated it to be a bad idea. However, there were a lot more anime plaques with that very same idea. When they were done, they headed to the treasure hall to see Akane. There, they saw the flame horn vermilion lacquered armor, which Akane was modeled after. The girl shrieked at the sight of the armor, and Kai was moved to tears because she finally got to see Akane. Meanwhile, the three guys were still confused by all this. Then, a security guard would tell them to keep it moving because of the crowd. From there, they went to see a portrait of Sametora. Despite it being an old man, the girls loved every bit of it. But the boys could tell there was nothing similar between the portrait and the lord in the anime. When the guard came again to chase them away, Mutsumi suggested they all go and see the real thing. Shortly after, they arrived at Sametora's grave. They paid their respects for a while. A very long while, actually. 30 minutes passed, in fact, and the guys could barely wait anymore. However, the girls would have stayed there forever if they could. None of them suggested they go grab lunch, so Kai rushed to take pictures of the grave. At the restaurant, she showcased a picture she had set as her phone's wallpaper. Now she could see her lord anytime. Just then, Mutsumi pointed out that Sametora's headless corpse was at the grave. Sametora once fought a battle against his own son, and after he won, he appealed to have his son's life saved, even though he was in the enemy army. Though his appeal was accepted, Sametora was asked to commit seppuku in exchange. Just before he cut his stomach, he learned his son was already dead. In a fit of rage, Sametora cut down a group of generals. He was severely injured by their vassals, but just wouldn't die. In the end, his head was cut off. and that head, laughing in a way that sounded like a scream, flew to a small local island. Mutsumi then pointed to the island in the middle of the lake. There was apparently a burial mound for the head there. Hearing this, Kaie and Nishina were pumped to go there. However, the restaurant owner advised against this, because it was said that the island was cursed. While the guys were shaken by this, the girls were only more motivated to go. They thought getting cursed by their lord would be the best. They had to take worn-out boats to the island. Since each of the boats was a two-seater, Kaie proposed a game of rock, paper, scissors to decide their pairs. Igarashi and Kaie ended up together, while Nana and Nishina were a pair. Lastly, Mutsumi and Shinomiya. Kaie felt a bit flustered after recalling how close their faces were in the room earlier. As they paddled to the island, Igarashi apologized for that night, but it made her only more bashful. Seeing her avoid his gaze, he questioned if she disliked being close to him. Kaie's mind spiraled, and she was fumbling her words, trying to explain herself, but Igarashi held her hand, telling her to get used to it. On the other hand, Nana and Nishina could tell something was wrong, so they rushed to catch up to their boat. Igarashi sensed their bloodlust and tried to get away, but it was too late, as his rivals kept bashing his boat. Meanwhile, Mutsumi and Shinomiya were having a good time. Suddenly, the weather changed and they all saw themselves in the middle of a storm. There was a whirlpool ahead of them. They all got swept underwater, and seeing Kaie struggle, Mutsumi stretched out to help her. When Igarashi came to, he only saw Shinomiya and Nishina with him. Sadly, his phone was broken, leaving him unable to contact anyone. Just then, they saw Nana lying unconscious nearby. They rushed to help, and seeing that Nana wasn't breathing, Nishina and Shinomiya quickly passed the mouth-to-mouth action to Igarashi. Nishina started taking pictures as Igarashi tried to resuscitate Nana, and she loved every second of it. When Nana finally woke up, she offered to show him how he got saved. But when Igarashi asked her to call the police, she happily showed that her phone had no reception. Elsewhere, Mutsumi and Kaie had turned up on a different side of the island. Just as he tried to use CPR, she coughed up water in his face. After Mutsumi explained the situation, they heard their friends yelling out, calling for them. So they responded, but running towards the direction of their voices, Kaie forgot her phone, and its screen suddenly blinked. Shinomiya then marked a tree to keep track of where they were going, but after walking around for a bit, they realized they'd been going in circles. They feared they'd been cursed, but an old man would approach them, and they lit up with joy. At the same time, Kaie suddenly passed out with a fever. Mutsumi went into a nearby shed and started a fire to keep her warm, but her wet clothes weren't helping. So, he took off both his and her clothes, and wrapped himself up with her to keep her warm. When Kaie's fever went down, Mutsumi dressed her up, while trying his best not to peep. Eventually, she woke up, saying she had a dream of being cuddled by a big, soft cat, and she was so happy. Mutsumi blushed a bit hearing this. Then, out of nowhere, the windows rattled and began shattering. Igarashi's group was warming themselves by a fire as well. When they asked for a way to contact the others, the old man told them there was no need, because they'd be seeing their friends soon in the other world. The old man then turned around, showing a ghostly face. While Mutsumi and Kaie ran out of the shed, they were being chased by little spirits that looked like fireballs. Soon, they came close to the burial mound of Sametora's hand, and other ghostly warriors were guarding the grave. There, they also saw Sametora's ghost, who threatened that anyone who set foot here would see death. As the ghosts attacked, Mutsumi used a good luck charm to defend against them. Seeing that it worked, Kaie brought out hers and began weaving hand signs, unleashing a powerful aura that sent the ghosts back. In a wild rage, Sametora lashed out, but Mutsumi quickly blocked with his charm. However, he couldn't last much longer. Kaie then unleashed the Lord's special skill to hold Sametora back. Sametora swore to curse the humans, but Kaie interjected, remarking that her Lord would never say that. The Lord was just so cool and filled with love. It's because he was that kind of person that everyone had a memorial for him and wished for him to rest in peace. He was an eternal hero. Sametora now understood the people saw him as an esteemed figure. He was satisfied with this, and his spirit finally rested. Just as the battle was over, Igarashi's group met with Mutsumi and Kaie. When they returned to the restaurant, the owner revealed he had accidentally used poisoned mushrooms in their food, and these mushrooms caused hallucinations. Everyone assumed what happened was a hallucination, including Igarashi's mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, but Nishina would prove him wrong by showing the picture on her phone. Mutsumi, on the other hand, stared at his damaged good luck charm and had his doubts, but decided to leave it at that. They were all seated at the usual place, with the usual friends and the usual conversation. But Nana felt something was off. Looking at Igarashi, he recalled when he saw him trying to get Kaie used to shaking his hands. Kaie was fine with it, so Igarashi held her hands, making her a bit flustered. Just the thought of this made Nana crush his drink. But that wasn't all. he noticed Kae and Nishina had been getting along really well since their fight. And as they watched the Lord unleash his special move, Mutsumi saw it and remembered how Kae used it on the island, saying how brave she was. Kae suddenly remembered when Mutsumi tried to wake her up and when he cuddled her in the shed, but she wasn't sure of the memories. She could barely look him in the eye. One look made her completely red. Nana had noticed all this and thought things weren't the same as before. Even things had changed between Kae and Shinomia. Because of this, he felt he was the only one falling behind. His one advantage was that he shared a resemblance to Shion, but since Akane showed up, Shion was moved out of the Hall of Fame, meaning he was out of the picture. Nana was also sure something happened between all of them during the trip. In other words, he was at a disadvantage. While he sulked, his little sister Kirari asked him to do the puri moon dance with her. After striking every move perfectly, he realized he was getting carried away. They then asked for some eggs, and while Nana was making them, he vowed by next break, he would get himself a date with Kae no matter what. But before he could approach her next day, Nishina beat him to it. However, Kae told her she would be working every day during their next break. When Igarashi asked why, she went on a long ramble about how the Kachuranbu Sale Marathon was about to start. She cried blood, feeling sad she'd used up the 6-month advance on her allowance for the pilgrimage. In other words, she was broke. And she even got an advance on her New Year's money. Kae then lit up, revealing she would be working at Usami Land, and she got her first choice job to work in the Puri Moon show, where she'd be playing the character Ruby. Shortly after, Igarashi went to apply for a part-time job there as well. Though the interviewers saw through his bold bluff, they assigned him as an exciting cruise leader. Next was Nishina. She barely had time for the job, so she was assigned to the pretty boy butler cafe. Shinomiya wanted to work backstage, but his cute looks got him to work as Princess Usamimi. Mutsumi loved kids, so he was assigned to sell balloons as mascots. Lastly, Nana came in, letting them know there was no one better suited for the job than him. After all, he knew everything about the show from watching it with his sister a lot. Striking all the poses, he was hired on the spot. Finally, he thought he'd definitely get closer to Kae this way. Kirari was excited to hear her brother would be playing the role of the Dark Prince. Nana would start teaching Kae the moves. He struck a perfect pose with his hips, which she thought was cute. Unknown to them, Igarashi was watching quietly. He thought Nana was doing well for himself, though he looked lame. Nana was having so much fun these days with Kae. They got to spend so much time together. And just as he thought nothing could ruin it, Igarashi popped up, asking that they go home together. He always came after his training, and Nana saw him as a serious pain. But who cares? Things were going great for Nana. Right now, he was the closest to Kae. As he rushed out the next morning, his sister would approach and notice him sneezing. But Nana explained he forgot to dry his hair the previous night, and said he was fine. However, when his turn came during practice, his vision suddenly became hazy, and his feet felt off balance. He soon fell and passed out. When he came to, he was in bed and saw Kae beside him. She explained he knocked out from a fever and a staff member gave him a ride home. She then went to the kitchen to prepare a meal for him. While there, she could feel Kirari's piercing gaze. The little girl then asked if she was Nana's girlfriend. Kae explained she was just a friend and they were working on the Puri Moon show together. This got the little girl excited, hearing Kae was playing as Ruby, her favorite character after Diamond. Still, she wasn't about to give up her brother yet. Meanwhile, Nana started daydreaming about Kae in his room for the first time. Shortly after, Kae would enter with food, and as she went to check his temperature, he suddenly grabbed her hand. Nana pushed her down on the bed, forcing a kiss. While Kae struggled to break free, he only held her tighter. That's when Igarashi would rush in and punch Nana away. Kae then took the chance to quickly run, and Igarashi chased after and grabbed her hand, but she forced her hand away, feeling frightened. Igarashi would storm back to Nana's room, only to see his friend still daydreaming about Kae. He finally slapped Nana back to his senses and explained what had happened. Nana then rushed to text an apology. The next day, Kae missed school because she had a cold. She wasn't answering Nana's calls or replying to his messages either. Even during practice, she wasn't there, and instructors began considering getting someone else to perform in her place. Nana believed Kae didn't want to see him after what had happened. He considered going to her place, but felt he had no right. Upon getting home, he got a drawing of the Dark Prince and Ruby from Kirari. She wanted him to show it to Kae, saying it was a good luck charm, and this would drive Nana to rush out. Kae, all the while, was gushing over her usual BL stories, feeling they were so good. But in real life, romance was scary for her. She then got a text from Igarashi trying to defend Nana. Though she understood, she was still afraid. Takuro then informed her that Nana came to visit, but she lied, saying she wasn't home. Regardless, Nana yelled from outside, attracting the attention of everyone around. He begged Kai to come for the performance because his sister was really looking forward to it. Suddenly, Takuro started pouring salt on him, trying to banish him like a demon. Before leaving, Nana handed over the poster his sister had drawn, and looking at it, Kai felt this was unfair. Just when they were about to replace her, Kai quickly came in for the performance, while keeping her distance from Nana because she was still scared. At the show, the adults had to stand, while the front seats were reserved for kids. But there were 3 guys who had a bad reputation, causing a problem because they demanded to stay in front. Seeing the characters in costumes, he and the rest realized it was that type of show. However, the 3 troublemakers were messing up the fun for the kids and trying to get pictures of the characters' skirts. Nana, as the Dark Prince, decided to handle the situation, but the 3 adult fans were too much for him. As Kai grabbed him before he would fall, he swore to never hurt her again. And so, they teamed up to take down the troublemakers, while still making it exciting for the kids. When it was time for the group dance, he offered to go in place of the girl who sprained her ankle, and he performed the dance flawlessly with the children. Summer vacation. The friends were all invited to Nishina's holiday home. It was a bit far from the beach, but that was what made it so peaceful. Kai called it amazing and pretty. Nishina allowed her to have a room with a great view, all to herself, especially with there being so many leftover rooms. Meanwhile, the guys all had to share the same room, and Nana was not happy about this. Still, this excited him. He got to spend the nights under the same roof as the girl he liked. This was his big chance to get closer to her, especially after the Puri Puri Moon event. If only. He definitely couldn't do that with the other boys here. Shinomia was trying to flex his muscles in the bathroom, but it wasn't working out for him. He was pasty and scrawny, and honestly, he wasn't the outdoors type. He wasn't a fan of the ocean either, and would rather be at home for summer. Mutsumi then came to check on him, but he said everything was fine. He barged out. Then Nana started making fun of him for taking a huge dump. On the beach, Kai was stunning in her bikini, and the guys were all dazzled at the sight of her. Nishina proposed they do some bodyboarding, which was like surfboarding, but Shinomiya had never done it before, and neither had Kai. So she was happy to learn with him, and this got Shinomiya's heart racing. He was really glad he came along. Kai's eyes would dart back to Nishina, who looked so cool while bodyboarding. Shinomiya cursed her and her unfair advantage, but figured they'd get the hang of it soon. He would fall underwater when trying it out, making him feel embarrassed. But the same happened to Kai, and they both ended up with seaweeds on their heads. Something they'd laugh about. Shinomiya felt everything was going well. Maybe it was a good thing he couldn't do it. Just as he had proposed they practice together, they heard girls squealing at the sight of Igarashi and Nana, looking so hot while surfing. Even Kai couldn't help but stare, making Shinomiya more frustrated. He quickly took Nana's board and rushed into the water to prove he could do it too. He was going to show Kai how cool and manly he was. But his scrawny body was shaking when he stood on the board. Though he was surfing, his surfing would end soon because he'd crash and lodge his face into her chest, causing the others to freak out. When Nana pulled him out, his nose gushed with a fountain of blood. Shinomiya later apologized desperately, but the boys didn't believe him. Only Kai and Mutsumi stood up for him. The guys over at the next table were drunk and scoring the waitress based on her looks. While Nishina and Kai went out to borrow a ball, they started staring at them and gave them a score of 100. Nana quickly dumped a glass of beer on one of their heads. Igarashi swooped in to stop them from fighting, but coldly warned them not to make a pass at the girls. As one of them rushed to fight, Mutsumi stopped him with a finger, leaving them terrified. At the beach, Nishina thanked the boys for their help. Igarashi then noticed he had never seen Mutsumi so angry. Moments later, they would start preparing a barbecue for themselves. Nishina had wanted the head cook to handle it, but Kai said it would be better if they did the work themselves. Shinomiya was peeling a potato while looking dejected, but he quickly got a hold of himself, determined to be a reliable guy in his own way. A guy who could protect Kai. He saw a snake crawling closer to her leg, and dived in to save her, but ended up knocking over the barbecue they were preparing, which meant they'd have to start over. At that moment, he felt even more useless and started crying as he ran back home. He believed he shouldn't have come at all. After all, he wasn't the outdoor type. To make things worse, he mistakenly tripped and landed face first on the ground. This made him think if he had just stayed home, he wouldn't feel so miserable. Though Shinomiya said he was going home, the others noticed he ran into a forest, which confirmed he was as dumb as they thought. Kai rushed to go help him because she felt sorry for him. So the others joined. When they crossed a wooden bridge, Nana screamed like a little girl, terrified for his life. He was holding up the others because they couldn't move, and just as Kai crossed, the rope snapped. Luckily, the drop wasn't so deep. Nishina then saw another path that would lead to an old hotel. Hearing this, Kai decided they would regroup there. After a while, Kai could hear Shinomiya's voice calling for help, but when he heard her, he told her to stay away. Kai would then find him tied up in vines, and her mind quickly fantasized about tentacles pretty boy. Eventually, she came to her senses and yanked the plants off of him. Shinomiya explained how struggling only made him more tangled. He thanked Kai for helping, but she still wore that wild, curvy grin. He just felt awful for embarrassing himself in front of her again. As the rain began pouring down, they ran to the old hotel to meet with the others, but it looked like a haunted building. Despite being scared, they had no choice but to go for shelter. Shinomiya would cover Kai with his jacket when she sneezed. When she thanked him, he didn't feel deserving of it, and blamed himself for putting them in their current situation. He couldn't do anything right, and always got in the way. He started crying, but suddenly, a can rolled towards them, and the building started shaking, leaving him completely terrified. He panicked, wondering what to do. To make it worse, he started hearing voices chanting, but it was Kaie who was praying for the Lord's mercy. She claimed she already had experience, but that time, it was all an illusion. Still, she prayed to Shion every day for things to be fine. However, her expression only made Shinomiya more terrified. Even though she was trembling, she tried to comfort Shinomiya. He thought himself to be a huge idiot. There was no time for him to lose his nerve, so he vowed to protect her. And just then, he heard people laughing at him. It turned out to be those guys from the restaurant. One of them mocked Shinomiya for saying he would protect Kai. When back at the beach house, all he did was hide behind the others. Shinomiya begged them to stop, but when they shoved him aside to face Kai, he kicked one of them in the crotch and quickly ran out with her. As the other guys chased, they immediately saw Nana and the rest before them, and the bad guys got beaten up. Shinomiya apologized to everyone for causing so much trouble, and it was all fine with them. They were already used to his freakouts either way. Shinomiya knew he wasn't as strong as the other guys or on the same level yet. Still, he didn't want to lose to anyone. But being a klutz, he got stuck in a gutter, and the girls freaked out over his klutz appeal. Back at school, Mutsumi asked everyone if they'd be interested in a treasure hunt. He then brought out a map he had found, and his eyes lit up, believing it led to some kind of buried treasure. He explained the map was from an old pot that a former club member got at a temple. Kai talked about some of the other things in their club room, which they both found interesting, but Nana believed it was all too shady. Then, they told Mutsumi to go with his club members. Since Kai was also a club member, she decided they would both go alone. Apparently, the other club members found it suspicious and didn't want to go. Suddenly, Igarashi and the rest decided to join them, refusing to leave just the two of them alone. Shinomiya and Nana believed Mutsumi was only pretending to be a saint, but Nishina asked if Mutsumi really liked Kai. When they all hung out together, she didn't get that feeling from him, but when they recalled his past actions, Igarashi and the others had their doubts, which left them wondering why he was doing all this. Later, Kai showed up in a tracksuit at Mount Fuji. Thinking about buried treasure near the mountain, she felt it was a fantasy and was really pumped to start exploring. But the guys decided to investigate the cave first while the girls stayed behind. While exploring, Mutsumi slipped and fell. Seeing it would have been worse with just him and Kaie, he felt relieved that they all came along. Igarashi then asked him how he felt about Kaie, and Mutsumi answered, "Yeah, I like her." But it was the same way he innocently loved all his friends. Igarashi then clarified, asking if he liked her romantically and saw her as a special person. But Mutsumi was confused. He didn't really get that kind of thing. The girls eventually met up with him, and while they kept moving, Mutsumi stared at Kaie, recalling Igarashi's question. To him, she was a dear underclassman and a sweet girl. He felt being with her brought a whirlwind of excitement and fun, and wondered if this made her special. Suddenly, a drop of water landed on Nana's head. Looking up, they saw a flock of bats that started flying all around them. Overwhelmed, they ran away, but Nana mistakenly dropped his flashlight. In the darkness, he mistook Shinomiya for Kai, holding him tightly, until Igarashi flashed the light on them, and Nishina took as many pictures as she could. However, they soon realized Kai and Mutsumi got separated from them. Seeing 4 tunnels ahead, they couldn't tell which one they came from. Meanwhile, Kai called out to the others, but was only met with silence. She then whipped her phone's flashlight and saw Mutsumi standing in front of her. Kai wanted them to find the others, but Mutsumi couldn't move. When he was younger, he was once locked inside a storehouse in the countryside, and the trauma left him unable to move an inch in the pitch black. He trembled, recalling that moonlight never got inside, and he could hear cries outside, but couldn't tell if they were insects or animals. It's amazing he even entered this cave at all. Kai then grabbed his hand, trying to help him feel less anxious. She gladly offered to help in any way she could, and as they walked, Mutsumi wondered why his fingers felt hot. Kai saw some flashlights ahead and felt relieved, knowing it was Igarashi's group. When she ran forward to meet them, Mutsumi unknowingly gripped her hand tightly. He pulled her in and embraced her warmly. Before realizing what he was doing, he wondered why he was acting like this. Afterwards, Igarashi and Nana met up with them, saying they had found what Mutsumi was searching for. That's when they found a golden treasure box, sparkling at the top of a pillar. Still, Nana believed this was all a setup. Mutsumi would then open the box and find a piece of paper that declaring him to be the second-generation president of the history club. But he was already president. Nana believed it was a prank pulled by the former club founder. And turns out, the founder was Mutsumi's older brother, Kazuma. Not something they expected. Soon after, they exited the cave and thus ended the journey to find the great treasure. In school, Kazuma suddenly showed up as the new student teacher in their class. Apparently, he was teaching second-year Japanese history. Mutsumi felt bad and apologized to his friends. He didn't hear anything about this because his brother lived on his own, and they barely kept in touch. This made Nana wonder if they didn't get along. But just then, Kazuma appeared behind his brother, surprising them. They were happy to see each other and expressed a warm, brotherly love. But the body contact they were making was feeding Kai and Nishina's perverted delusions. Mutsumi explained that his friends had helped him look for the treasure, but Kazuma completely forgot all about that. Nana tried to explain, but Kazuma's obliviousness only made him more enraged. He then remembered what Mutsumi said. It was supposed to be a prank. Kazuma laughed at them for actually falling for it, but when he realized they all went because of his brother, he kindly thanked them and asked which of them his brother was dating. Mutsumi explained he wasn't like that with his friends, but left to Kazuma, he would date all of them. He pulled Nana close, saying gender wasn't a problem. This guy definitely doesn't discriminate. Kai and Nishina loved this. When Kazuma grabbed Kai's hand, Mutsumi suddenly called out to him angrily. Then, he said lunchtime was over, so Kazuma ran back to work. Still, Kazuma could tell it was weird for his brother to lose his cool. Soon, they would find Kazuma fit into the school without a hitch. His lessons were interesting and easy to understand. Of course, the girls were the first to like him, and before long, even the boys grew fond of him. In just a matter of days, he became really popular. While Kai was shopping at Anime Ito, she would bump into Kazuma, who was there to see a movie. He then noticed she was an otaku. Since she was alone, he proposed they get lunch together, and it would be his treat. They headed to a fancy restaurant that made Kai feel nervous. There, Kazuma asked how his brother was doing, and revealed he used to play pranks on him all the time. He was the one who locked Mutsumi in a storehouse, and forgot him there for an entire night. Kai told him that this really traumatized Mutsumi, but she admitted he had helped her out a lot. He was really strong where it mattered and truly kind. Kazuma was proud to hear his brother had grown up so well. He would then sneak up on his brother at home, letting him know that he met Kai. He thought she was cute and was jealous of his brother. The next day, while Kai was cleaning up the club room, Kazuma gifted her a legendary Mirage Saga collaboration prize. She dived towards it, her eyes red and mouth drooling. She had never seen it before, but when she jumped down, trying to refuse the gift, the box above tipped over. Kazuma quickly pulled her, saving her from the crash. Seeing how close they were, Kai became flustered, but Kazuma softly held her chin, noting how cute she was. That's when Mutsumi would slam a book on his head, and with a cold stare, he questioned his brother for trying to make a move on a student. But Kazuma assumed he was free to chase her once his term was up, believing his brother wouldn't have a reason to stop him. Mutsumi then pulled Kai close, claiming she was his girlfriend, which left her shocked. Igarashi and the others suddenly burst right in, as Kai questioned him about what he said. The others angrily put pressure on him, asking him to explain himself. Kazuma then burst with laughter, noting that his brother was always a bad liar. Hearing Mutsumi was only protecting Kai, Nana confronted Kazuma, asking what he did. But Kazuma would tease him, running his fingers along Nana's lips. Kai and Nishina, as always, were thrilled at the sight of this. Since they were all head over heels for Kai, Kazuma decided to throw his hat in the ring as well. They all spoke against it, reminding him he was a teacher. But Kazuma pointed out he was only a student teacher, and believed it didn't matter when it came to love. He would ask Kai out, but she immediately refused, letting him know Shion was her waifu. Meanwhile, the others tried figuring out a way to deal with Kazuma as fast as possible. Soon after, Kazuma asked to be Kai's second waifu, but she let him know that position was tied between Captain Levi and Akane. Not only that, but her third wife was Miyuki, and she had 16 total wives. While the others secretly watched, Shinomia went in to save Kai. He approached and told her Achan was looking for her, and when she left, Shinomia and Kazuma got into a heated moment. Shinomia said he would do anything to protect Kai, but Kazuma would pin him against the wall and show him a picture of him dressed as a princess. He teased Shinomiya, saying he was his type, and then kissed the picture. Shinomiya would then run away in tears. Kazuma was too scary for him. He just couldn't handle it. In Kazuma's class, hearts were up in the air from all the girls who couldn't resist him. When he threatened to kiss whoever failed his questions, they all shrieked. The question and answers were going smoothly, until it was Kai's turn. Kazuma would make the question more tricky, asking about the famed prostitute who had a tragic love story with Hatakeyama Shigetada. He wanted to make it tricky because Kai was in the history club, but the only thing she was confident about was the Sengoku commanders' connections and their BL relationships. Igarashi decided to answer the question and boldly replied, "I don't know." Kazuma could tell he was only sacrificing himself to protect Kai. When he moved to kiss Igarashi, Nana looked scared with teary eyes, but Kazuma would only flick Igarashi's head, saying he felt bad for making Nana tear up on the sidelines. He wasn't going to steal Igarashi from him. The girls recalled Nana and Igarashi had matching keychains as well. This made them conclude that the two guys were going out. Kai and Achan were red with excitement, hoping this was true. Even when the guys tried to explain that the keychains were from Kai, it was no use. The rumors about them had been sown, and their lives were over. They collapsed to their knees in despair. Nishina thought they were hopeless, so she decided to settle the matter herself. Hours later, she returned, and immediately collapsed to the ground. When she had gone to confront Kazuma, he started quoting lines from the self-published book she wrote, making her feel more embarrassed. She tried to stop him, but he only continued, causing her mind to spiral. In Igarashi's arms, Nishina said he was a demon. After that, the light in her eyes faded and she gave up. The only choice they had left was to ask for Mutsumi's help. They approached Mutsumi and pushed him to confront his brother. In the storage room, Mutsumi asked Kazuma to stop making passes at Kai, but his brother refused, saying he was serious about his feelings for her. Suddenly, Kazuma distracted him and threw him inside a locker, locking it up. Then, he sealed up all the tight spaces with tape while letting his brother know that he always got what he wanted. Mutsumi was left trapped in the pitch dark, unable to see anything, and he couldn't move, just like back then. When he and Kazuma were younger, Kazuma loved castles with the gold shachihoko, a sea monster in Japanese folklore. They prayed for Santa to give them a Nagoya castle for Christmas, and the next morning, Mutsumi got his wish, while Kazuma ended up with a castle without the gold shachihoko, leaving him devastated. Seeing his brother's sadness, Mutsumi offered to trade his because he just wanted Kazuma to be happy, but Kazuma would only get upset. And as they argued, he locked his brother in the storehouse, forgetting about him all night. Mutsumi never understood why his brother was so upset back then. Eventually, he got saved by his friends. If Kazuma was just playing around with Kai, Mutsumi felt like he had to stop him. But if his brother was serious, and Kai also chose Kazuma, he didn't know what he'd do. Still, the thought of it made his head hurt. The next morning, Nana followed Kai to school, and they informed Igarashi that there was no sight of Kazuma. They planned to keep doing this, and simply keep him away from her. But just then, Kazuma used the school PA system to challenge his brother to a duel of Guard the Castle. This was a card game released at the same time as a certain other popular card game. Despite being overshadowed, it had a small but passionate following of enthusiasts, a card game for fans of the Sengoku era, and one of these fanatics was Kai. Mutsumi then rushed over to the radio room to confront his brother, but Kazuma cut him off, saying he always got his hands on what he wanted. But this was the first time his brother didn't approve, so Kazuma was going to give him a chance and ignore Mutsumi as long as he backed down. On the other hand, everyone else in school was really excited for the showdown. Thrilled, Kai approached Mutsumi, talking about how she used to duel her brother, and they'd bet snacks. She'd end up eating everything, making him cry because he was so bad. However, Mutsumi wasn't so sure about this duel. He had always given up and shared whatever he could. He never wanted something so much he'd fight over it, so as far as everyone else was happy, he was happy too. But something was at stake for this match. It wasn't a thing that could be shared. As Kai suggested he give up, Mutsumi burst, "I can't do that!" It made him feel terrible when he thought about his brother taking this from him. It made him really depressed. So, Kai held his hands, telling him to fight for it, even if it meant taking others down. Then, she began babbling about how it was similar to getting a limited item. Mutsumi could only think about her warm hands, and how he didn't want to let them go. He decided to fight, and vowed to win. The entire gym was crowded with students waiting for the duel. Nishina approached Igarashi and the others, giving them items they would use to cheer on Mutsumi. Shortly after, the duelists walked in, with Kazuma wearing a love helmet. Mutsumi called out his brother for stealing it from the history club room and swore to put an end to his days of doing whatever he wanted. Afterwards, the battle started with the both of them going head to head. No one else understood what was happening, aside Kai, who could read all the moves. As they all started cheering Mutsumi on, he was able to use special tactics to get the upper hand. However, Kazuma remarked that his fair and square frontal attack was always his weakness. Then, he took down his brother's general. However, this was all a part of Mutsumi's plan, allowing him to turn the tables as an assassin, and he won the match. Mutsumi apologized to his brother, but he just couldn't let Kazuma have his way this time. The two brothers then made up and hugged each other. Kai happily congratulated Mutsumi and asked what it was that he didn't want to give up so badly. Mutsumi patted her head, answering that it was something very precious to him, and suddenly, he told her that he liked her. Kai didn't properly hear Mutsumi, and as he was about to confess his feelings again, Nana and the others immediately dragged him away. Outside, they confronted him about it, and when he told them he liked her, they were astonished. He had just figured out his feelings a second ago, all thanks to his brother, and realized he was in love with Kai. He felt the need to tell her his feelings quickly. The others denied him, and Igarashi explained they all felt the same way, but Mutsumi figured they should all tell Kai their feelings too. That's when Nishina pointed out that none of them had actually told Kai how they felt. Later, Nishina would ask Kai to be her assistant and help with the draft for an upcoming Comic Village event. As Kai agreed, she decided to tell Mutsumi she wouldn't be able to make it to the history club. Just then, Shinomia popped out, offering to tell Mutsumi in her place. He wasn't called a carrier pigeon in elementary school for nothing, so he assured Kai he would let Mutsumi know. While Nishina and Kai left, Igarashi showed up to follow them. Nishina made it clear that no one invited him, but he wasn't going to let Nishina have her chance uninterrupted. As they were working at Nishina's place, Kaya excused herself to the restroom. Igarashi then used the chance to contact Nana, who had arranged with Takuro to keep Kai away from Mutsumi. Nana was able to convince him by lying about Kai being in danger. At the same time, Nishina blocked Mutsumi on Kai's phone. They weren't going to let him tell Kai anything, no matter how dirty they had to play. Meanwhile, Mutsumi was unable to reach Kai. He then asked Shinomiya why he was in the history club, to which Shinomiya innocently replied that he was just interested in Japanese history. Mutsumi would keep trying to call, but to no avail. A few days later, Nishina informed Igarashi and Nana that Kai wasn't suspecting anything yet. However, Nana had received word from Takuro about a telegram being delivered, and all it said was, "I like you." But even with that, they hoped Mutsumi would give up. Shinomiya started tailing Mutsumi all the way to the bathroom. After waiting outside for a while, he rushed in, seeing Mutsumi had escaped through the windows. He quickly informed the others that he had lost track of the target. Before they could figure out where he had gone, Mutsumi used the school PA system to ask Kai to meet him on the roof after school. The others rushed to confront him in the broadcast room. Then, Mutsumi asked them why they were so desperate to stop him. They were all free to confess their feelings, and he wasn't going to stop them. So, he said anyone who wanted to tell Kai their feelings should come to the rooftop as well. Igarashi later admitted Mutsumi's words made sense. It wasn't like Kai would simply return his feelings if he got in someone else's way. He decided he had to tell her, or nothing would happen. But he wondered if she would keep smiling as always if he told her how he felt. When Kai came to the rooftop, she saw everyone waiting for her, and she questioned why they were all here. Mutsumi revealed they were all here to tell her how they felt. One by one, the 5 of them confessed their feelings for Kai and asked her out, leaving her stunned. Later, Kai would rush to Ah-chan's house, telling her what happened. The 5 of them didn't expect an answer right away, but only wanted her to know how they felt. Since they didn't need an answer, Ah-chan didn't see a reason to rush. But Kai felt she had to take this seriously, which meant accepting their feelings, thinking about them, and giving them an answer. Ah-chan was glad to see her friend had grown. Then, she asked how Kai felt about each of them. Kai could only talk about them in reference to her Fujoshi obsession. Ah-chan was sick of all this, wondering why it seemed like she hadn't made any progress at all, but Kai had never looked at them in any other way. She wondered how she should get to know them better, and Ah-chan thought if this was an otome game, she could simply follow their character routes, and Kai took that as her answer. For each day of the holiday next week, she decided to go on a date with each of them. By the end of holiday, she would have answers to the offers they each made to her the other day. The dates would decide who gets to win, so the showdown began. Starting off with Igarashi, he and Kai went to the aquarium. She was surprised that he was so knowledgeable about fish, but he had only Googled some of the information recently. When she nearly tripped, he was there to save her. His charming care left her flustered. Igarashi was very engaging in conversation, considerate, and kind as well. He was also really easy to get along with. On the Ferris wheel, he complimented Kai's beauty. She blushed thinking about how some of the things he would say were so embarrassing. Next up, she went to Usami Land with Nana. While the silence was awkward, he suddenly ran off and got bunny ear costumes for them. He was a little constrained at first, but he loosened up and got back to being his usual self. He really knew how to have a good time, and Kaie had a lot of fun. Shortly, a little girl who was lost mistook Kaie for her mother, and when she realized Kaie wasn't, the girl started wailing. Nana would make both of them laugh with funny faces until the girl's mother came over. Seeing how caring he was, Kaie felt her heart race. She then went to the alpaca park with Shinomia. He tried feeding the animals but mistakenly dropped the food, and when he stopped to pick it up, one of the alpacas started eating his hair, causing Kaie to panic. Shinomiya was the kind of guy you couldn't leave alone, and Kaie thought if she had a little brother, it would feel like this. A wild alpaca then started charging towards them, but Shinomiya stepped in the way to protect Kaie. Luckily, he wasn't hurt because of how soft the animal was. Apparently, this particular alpaca liked charging at couples. As they laughed it off, Kaie felt Shinomiya was a bit reliable. Afterwards, Nishina flew Kaie to a fancy restaurant and reserved the whole place just for them. She was a celebrity, so every single thing she did was elegant. Sometimes, Kaie felt like they lived in two different worlds. In such beautiful scenery, they started engaging in their perverted delusions about Akane and his lord. They would squeal while talking about different scenarios. Kaie felt like they were soulmates. Nishina was so fun to be around. For the last date, Mutsumi took Kaie to go exploring with an old map. Soon after, they arrived at a forested area within the city. Kaie noted how Mutsumi always spoke with a gentle voice, very softly. Yet, she wondered if he was serious about liking her. She then rambled about how she wished for Akane and the Lord to be together. On the other hand, Mutsumi wished they could be together forever. He admitted he probably always liked her, but he never knew there was a special kind of like, and he thanked her for teaching him this feeling. In the end, Kaie ended up more conflicted about what to do. The five of them were all good people with their charms, and she felt like she liked all of them, but also still felt like that special feeling was missing. Later, she would tell all of them that she did find the person special to her, revealing it was Shion from Mirage Saga. They were about to air another season, and she rambled about it endlessly like a crazy fanatic. Then, she ran off, leaving all of them confused. But they chased after, still eager for an answer. The prince should be with the princess. Kaie questioned who decided that once again. She believed the prince should be with the prince, while the princess lived a life of joy, watching from the sidelines. And they all lived happily ever after. Except for me, I needed her to pick someone. Oh well, I'm not gonna spoil too much, but if you read the manga, she does actually choose someone, and two of the guys end up together as well. Don't spoil it in the comments. And who do you think is best for Kaie? Subscribe for more, but for now, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.